Good morning, everyone. I've been asked to speak about migrants, diaspora, and rights within the context of the Sustainable Development Goals. My focus will be on what we have and what we choose to do with it, and what we do not have and what we can do about it. Perhaps this is a good opportunity to pay tribute to the civil society actors who had worked tirelessly, especially over the past 2 years, to make a significant input to the outcome document of the Sustainable Development Goals. They were involved in contributions and critiquing the report of the high-level panel of eminent persons in June 2013. They had lobbied government representatives through the Open Working Group and critiqued the UN Secretary General's synthesis report of November 2014, which has then contributed to negotiations by governments, and we've now ended up with a declaration. In terms of migration, diaspora, and human rights, the Global Forum is also an opportunity to pay tribute to the friendly governments and agencies that worked with civil society to make sure that our voices were heard, and to pay tribute to Sir Peter Sutherland, who had convened and opened doors for us in this process. As I give a summary of the Sustainable Development Goals, for those of you who have been involved in it, do excuse me for telling you the obvious. 25th to the 27th of September 2015, the governments of the world convened in New York at the 70th session of the UN General Assembly, and they adopted a new development framework, transforming our world, the 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development. This would take effect from the 1st of January 2016 and would last for 15 years. They base this on the principles of leaving no one behind, and the framework document focuses on people, planet, and prosperity through peace and partnerships. We have in this document 91 paragraphs with headings that include shared principles and commitments, means of implementation, review and follow-up, and clear reference to the Addis Ababa Agenda for Action, which is the financing for development framework. It is in paragraph 59 that we have the goals. We have 17 goals, 169 targets. What is not in the document is that we are likely to have 100 indicators. In this document, there are explicit references and implicit inferences relating to migration, migrants, diaspora, and human rights. I would just make reference to a few of them, the most prominent. Goal number 5, to achieve gender equality and empower women and girls. Goal number 8, to promote sustained, inclusive, and sustainable growth, full productive employment, and decent work for all. Goal number 10, to reduce inequality within and amongst countries. Goal number 16, promote peaceful and inclusive societies for sustainable development, provide access to justice for all, and build effective, accountable, and inclusive institutions. Some may say this is a time to pause and celebrate. I shall not begrudge you such indulgence, but let it be brief and let it be sober, for the next stage of the journey begins. What is it that happens to policies in the real world? They may be embraced, implemented, improved, and stretched. Stretched so that even more juice of goodness is taken out of them. That is a good policy. Alas, policies may be unloved, neglected, inert, and unfulfilled. It is these two elements that makes it important that civil society sees this as a journey. What is it that we can do? The goals are given to us in paragraph 59. Paragraph 60 onwards is means of implementation. We have to work on implementation. A lot can happen between cup and lip. So within implementation, civil society have a role to play. Then from paragraph 71 onwards, it's about review and follow-up. This again is an opportunity for civil society to play an active role. And can I highlight 5 particular areas that I think we should be alert? Number 1, the indicators, the 100 indicators. These are being discussed now by the Interagency Evaluation Group, and this would go on till March of 2016. There's a good chance any way of influencing will close by January, February of 2016. What should we be concerned about? Excuse me for the statisticians in the room, but the evaluation committee group and the indicators is being led mainly by statisticians. That, I think, should worry us a little bit because there might be a focus on quantitative outputs and not enough on qualitative outputs. Civil society statisticians may have difficulty identifying what constitutes fair migration policies, but civil society is very sure of what constitutes fair migration policies. So this is an opportunity for us to be involved. Second point is the financing for development framework, the sort of 4 A's. There are a lot of new and progressive ideas there about blended finance, public-private partnerships. These, in some cases, have not delivered significant public good, and we should be concerned and study it and to make sure that the intended benefits do come to the many rather than the few. Third is, as mentioned by Ignacio, civil society is being shut down and pressured in different parts of the world. It is extremely important that we continue the lobbying, the fight to ensure that civil society's voice is heard during the implementation, review, and follow-up of the SDGs. In terms of the indicators, there's a suggestion even that civil society should have a shadow role, being a part of the formal process of indicators review. Fourth is, let us not be complacent, for reversals can indeed happen and have happened before. The first point I would make is, within this new framework, the financial instruments being produced, the funds and resources being brought about should apply to civil society just as they do to government. Because it is not only government that delivers public goods, civil societies do it. Now, the role of civil society as an implementer is not necessarily because they're better than government or business, but in this world we need a plurality of actors. And finally, I'll leave you with what my nightmare sometimes is about when we gain success in civil society. My nightmare is that in civil society advocacy, we might end up mirroring the lives or what used to be the lives of boxers and prize fighters. They started in poverty with not much going well for them. They fight with guts and heroism and win fame and fortune. They wallow in the fortune and they wallow in the fame and spend the fortune and return to naught as the show moves on to another town and only pitiful memories remain. We must back our gains in civil society, nurture them and grow them so that we can prepare for new wins. Thank you very much.